Hi, my name is Joan.A and I'm a lawyer. In today's video, I'm going to respond to a comment where someone requested to explain more on debt recovery and securitization. So, in debt recovery, what we are looking at is how a creditor can recover money from the person they lent money to, that is the borrower. And we're also looking at the borrower's rights under this process of debt recovery. What remedies do they have? Can they redeem their property during this process? Can they, do they have a right to pay their loan earlier than the due date in the contract? Well, let's get into this video. So, the first step in debt recovery is to always issue a demand notice. A creditor is always supposed to issue a demand notice to the borrower. And if he's recovering money and his entire goal is towards recovering money alone, he's supposed to issue a notice and later on wait for 14 days before he can start recovering against the borrower. This is common, especially where it's a small claims matter. What do I mean when I say small claims matter? When I say small claims matter, I mean whereby the loan is of a low value, like let's say it's not beyond 10 million. A creditor can start recovering against the borrower in a small claims court. That's if he has waited for the 14 days to elapse after issue of the demand notice and he has not gotten any response from the borrower. The second option could be if the money is above 10 million and it's 20 million, then he can file his cause of action in the magistrate's court, that is grade 1. If it's above 20 million and it's 50 million, he can file his cause of action under the chief magistrate court in this circumstance. However, you must note that if you are bringing a claim before court and you're a money lender, you're going to realize that court is going to ask you for the documents. The money lending transactions have to be up to date. And you also must be a licensed money lending company. Those are two important factors. Otherwise, if you're not, then high chances are the contract is rendered illegal, and at the end of the day, that contract is not enforceable under the law, considering that practicing money lending in Uganda without a license makes the contract illegal. So, that's one way of recovering against the borrower under debt recovery. The other option is if the borrower gave security at the point when you were making the money lending contract, if you're in possession of that security, the law gives you 60 days. You can wait for 60 days before you start recovering against the borrower. You do not need to go to court. You can wait for 60 days for the 60 days to elapse and you start recovering against the borrower. That is, you can recover against the borrower for your money by you first issue a demand notice. If 60 days elapse without the borrower replying, you go ahead and you could sell the land under private treaty, or you could sell the land under public auction. What is public auction and what is private treaty? Public auction is when you hold an auction and people who are interested attend that auction and they bid for that security. The security could be land in this circumstance. So in this particular situation, the highest bidder takes the property. Then when it comes to private treaty, normally it's negotiations between the seller and the buyer. So when it's private treaty, it's more of you're selling the land and when you get a buyer, you negotiate on the price. But the most important factor to note in this particular circumstance is when you're selling security, you must sell it at a first value and not below the first value. So how do you find out that? Before selling any kind of security, you have to make an evaluation of the property that you're selling so that you can find out the first value and you can find out the market value of the land. Normally, the first value is the one that is obtained at public auction, normally whereby you have, where the property has been repossessed more than 2 times, it normally after attracts a first value sale. But however, in a circumstance where you try to sell the property and it's not reaching the first sale value, and you have made 2 attempts and you failed, then you are allowed under the law to sell the contract below the first value. So the other way that you can recover against the borrower your money where the borrower has refused or has defaulted to pay the loan is, let's say if you are making the contract, if there was a guarantor who promised to pay in circumstances that the borrower fails to pay the money, then you have to inform the guarantor, you have to give notice to the guarantor to make payment of money to cover the default of the loan payment. The fourth situation is receivership. Receivership is a remedy that is provided to the creditor under the law in circumstances whereby the security is not in possession of the creditor. That is, there is no way the creditor can recover on this property. An example I can give you could be stocks in this particular situation. So in this circumstance, in this circumstances, a creditor has to appoint a receiver who can possess that property and manage it in order to dispose it off to obtain the loan at the end of the day. So those are the 5 situations how a creditor can recover their money under the law. The other incidents that I talked about is normally when we are doing debt recovery, we are not only focusing on the debtor alone, we are also focusing on the other side of the borrower. So the borrower, what rights do you have? The borrower, you have a right to pay the money in case you get it earlier. You don't have to wait for the date that is in the contract that, let's say, you're supposed to pay on 25th. If you get the money to pay back the loan and you've gotten it on 1st, you can pay it back. So you have a right to early payment. And then the second remedy that you have is, or the second solution, normally sometimes what happens is that you can even have the money to pay back to the creditor, but it so happens that the creditor refuses to get the money back, or maybe the creditor is not available or can't be traced. Normally, you can find that sometimes creditors want interest to increase on your loan. So the remedy that you have in this particular circumstance is paying the money to UMRA, that is Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority. So you can pay your money, your due loan, and you're issued with a receipt. After paying your money, UMRA gives a notice to the creditor in order to reconcile your account. Another remedy that you could have as an aggrieved borrower is that you will notice that if a creditor can't be found, and let's say you have paid your money to UMRA, it means that upon paying your money, you're also supposed to recover your property back. And you have not yet recovered your property back. So what do you do in this particular circumstance? In this particular circumstance, you have a remedy under the law. You can file before court with evidence of your paid money of the loan that they were demanding you, to request for an injunction against the creditor to stop any transactions, because remember that, let's say if you issued security as let's say you issued land as security, it would mean that the lender has your title. So for you to stop any foregoing transactions or any likely transactions, for instance, for the likelihood of the lender selling away your land, you can apply for an injunction to stop or to preserve the status quo of your property. The other remedy that you have under the law as a borrower is a right to redeem your property. You have a right to redeem your property during debt recovery, where you manage to pay all the monies that are demanded from you before they sell the property. If you can manage to make the payment, then the creditor has no right to sell your property. This is all I had for you on debt recovery. If you like this kind of content, please hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on content like this. And please like, share, and subscribe. And if you feel like this information could benefit someone, please kindly take some time and share it to them.